Well, if you're both 6 months plus, and you make it go ahead. Yeah. I was saying he's taller than Darren the other day. We figured out He's not tall. He's not taller than he does. We're a short family, so he nearly didn't tall still. But then this lad's he's only maybe only an inch taller than me, maybe 3 inches. Yeah, what's one day? 17. There's a stone over your head, I think. Stone. Yes. Very animated. I know. For me, it's like I said, I could easily put like one of them sets of my table. Sure. We have a back later folks. Yeah, true. Which flavors?
Yeah. I'll get that. Yeah. Oh, good man.
All right. Yeah. You're good to go?
Yeah, all good.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming along. Got a couple more joining. I'll get that turned down slightly. Can you hear? I want to be shouting anyway. So.
Don't worry, I will. I'll try my best anyway, yeah.
Cooney, Glendalough.
How are you going? Hello.
He's made some drinks for you, which he's going to talk about and bring us through five different whiskies, and pairing with some wines and
Yeah.
show us through a few bits and pieces.
Yeah, it's a bit of a boozy evening now, so it is. I didn't really intend anyone to be drinking pints, but fair play to you anyway. You're better men than me anyway, the lot of you. Right. So, yeah. Whatever you want me to go. Yeah. Right. So everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks everyone for coming out and coming to see me. It's lovely to see you all. So what we have on your tables there that I made for you is the Glendalough book, which is a very simple serve. It's just a measure of double barrel, 35.5 mils, 15 mils of lime juice, 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, and topped off with ginger ale and garnished with a lime wedge. Very easy to serve, very easy to make in a couple of seconds. I myself don't have a huge amount of cocktail experience, so please judge away harshly on the kind of mix of those cocktails, if you will, or the serves, if you will. But yeah, so it's very idea with the double barrel. If you've never had it before, it is our entry-level whiskey. Very easy to drink. It's a 3.5-year-old single grain for what, the first 3.5 years of life. It is in a ex-bourbon cask. Then for 6 to 9 months, it's all transferred into an Oloroso sherry cask from Montilla, Spain. Very close, actually, to where they grow the PX grape as well. So that's a little something there. The idea behind it was it's something you can all make at home. Very simple, very easy. The idea with double barrel is as well, it's entry level, it's accessible, anybody can drink it. It's nice and sweet, it's a nice single grain, delicious. But yeah, the idea behind double barrel as well is like, you know, it kind of make you think twice a little bit about Irish whiskey, double barrel, double thinking. Because of course, as most of you probably know yourselves, single grains don't usually get too much of a chance to stand on their own 2 feet, especially with Irish whiskey. It's not as popular. Of course, they make up more parts of a kind of a blend, or they make up the kind of, I suppose, component of Irish whiskey there as well. So what we've done basically is kind of give it a single grain, a new lease on life. We're not saying we're breaking like the mold with using bourbon and sherry casks, because every distillery in Ireland at some stage is going to be using bourbon and sherry casks anyway. So a little bit about, I suppose what I'm going to do really is kind of start a little bit about kind of Glendalough, St. Kevin, but mostly really focus on the 5 lads. I'm going to say 5 lads. I'm not going to say 5 guys because I haven't had lunch and I'm starving right now. So I'll try my best not to say it. So anyway, Glendalough was founded in 2011. As you can probably see here, emblazoned on the bottom here, as what we're proud to say is we are Ireland's first craft distillery. We were the very first to set up in Ireland. So if you're wondering, you know, is Blackwater or Gunpowder or Dingle? So Blackwater was 2014. Dingle was around 2012. Gunpowder around the same 2014 as well. So we kind of all got into the same game around the same time. So, oh yeah, sorry. Great question. So first of all, there were actually only 2 distilleries pretty much in Ireland when we started, and that was going to be Jameson or Middleton. There's going to be Bushmills, and a craft distillery is basically small batch, small distillation. So for example, we produce around, on the gin side, 900 bottles of gin a day, which is very small, all very craft. Of course, Jameson are going to be producing at a much higher rates than us, and of course, they've been around for a lot longer. So a craft distillery is basically small batch distilling or premium distillation as well. So yeah, when it came to it, basically, Glendalough was founded by 5 lads, 5 friends, who all worked in advertising, mostly in the drinks trade. A lot of them worked on big campaigns for Diageo and Heineken. And what basically happened was Gary McLaughlin, who was our marketing director at the time, he basically took upon himself to kind of get together all the lads and said, you know what, I'm getting sick of this creative directing lark. I'm going to do something with a bit more substance. So in 2011, they founded Glendalough Distillery. And at the time, you'll probably see through the rest of our whiskies here, there's a bit of a DNA of taking risks, of taking the road a lot less traveled by, doing something a little bit different, and kind of standing out from the crowd. And you'll see it as we go through the 5 whiskies we have here for you all tonight. So what we actually started distilling first was poaching. And in 2011, I don't know about you, but the education, especially on the consumer side of things for poaching, wasn't great. It isn't where it is today. You don't have great bars like 1661 by Dave Mulligan in Dublin, kind of driving forward with poaching education in Ireland. Not many people knew what poaching was, of course, except for that very weird bottle of Lucozade under your mom's kitchen cabinet that you run on greyhounds to make them go faster. I've tried it. It does work. But they just go out the back of the trapdoor rather than the front sometimes, which is kind of annoying if you've got, like, you know, a 5 of each way in it. So with poaching again, as I said, if you've ever, so the founders, the 5 lads that founded it, it's very important to say that these lads took a massive, massive gamble to start any distillery. It's obviously a huge capital requirement, huge cash flow requirement. So they got very good at filling out grants and filling out forms. Especially by Board Bia. If Board Bia didn't exist, a lot of the distilleries in Ireland would not exist today. So it's 43 distilleries on my last count in Ireland alone. And they all only exist because Board Bia and the grants that they give us as well. So we're very thankful to them too. So from there, what happened is Donald O'Gallagher, he kind of took on the States on his own. And what he kind of, I suppose, envisioned was what's called a lighthouse strategy. Basically, you pick 2 or 3 bars within a small geography, and you kind of basically, bit by bit and step by step, you overinvest in these bars. Bit by bit by bit, you grow your brand, you grow your marketing, you grow your base. So you can imagine when they started out in New York, small wins every single time, just clawing back different bars from the likes of Jameson, from Teelings, from Powers, from all of these bigger distilleries than us. So the ask was huge. And if anyone who's ever met Donald Gallagher, I don't know if any of you ever have, he is the most outgoing, energetic, exuberant man I've ever met in my entire life. When I first met him, I felt like I was 10 feet taller. You kind of feel like you can do anything after talking to these guys. But yeah, again, these lads are big into taking risks. Now, some of you may know that we were fully acquired in 2019 by a company called Mark Anthony Brands. If that name doesn't ring a bell, maybe their big product might, which is White Claw. I don't know how many of you know White Claw here. Yeah? No? You do? Oh, we haven't done our job, so I'm terrible. I'm getting fired tomorrow. So that's White Claw is our kind of a big brand in Mark Anthony, and that kind of like pushes all the kind of smaller brands behind it, like the Glendaloughs and the Barefaces just behind it and pushes them kind of revenue-wise as well there as well. So what we have here for you tonight on the tasting mats, we're going to go left to right because, you know, that's normal. So first of all, we're going to start with a lovely dram of the Calvados cask. Then we're going to take into the Madeira cask. Third, we're going to go to our Burgundy cask. Then we'll go to our pot still. And then we're going to finish off with a lovely dram of the 7-year-old single malt Mizunara. Now, I am aware there is a lot of drinking going on now tonight. So what we're going to do, around the halfway mark, we'll take a little bit of a break, if that's all right with yourselves. 5-10 minutes. You can go out, smoke, have a toilet break, and another gentle pint if you want. Fire away. You're more dangerous than me. So what we're going to do first is, yeah, we'll take into the Calvados first. So which one was the Calvados and the Capitas, wasn't it? Sorry, Barry. On the left there. This is the, apologies. Yeah, the Darkers of Madeira, yes. Thanks very much. Cheers, guys. So he's a part-time employee with Glendalough as well, so he is. I'm just paying him in drink. That's all I can afford right now, all right? So, what I've... No, where a guy here is passing around a sample of Calvados wine, and I want Calvados wine. So the idea is you don't have to drink it, of course. No one's under any pressure to drink at all. If you don't want to, it'd be a bit weird though if you did. But the idea behind this is you can kind of sample some of the Calvados there, have a little nose of it. And the There's some similarities in there with the Calvados single cask too. So is anybody here kind of familiar with Calvados wine in general, or know anything about it? All right, Grant, no worries. I can kind of say anything I want. Brilliant. Apples, yes, exactly. So with the Calvados there are actually 200 different varieties of apple in every bottle of Calvados. Calvados has, of course, as I say, under the brandy family, but the aging profiles are a little bit different. Whereas you'll get the VS, VSOP, and XO for brandy, where you'll get, 2, 4, and 10. It's more 2, 4, and 6 in VS, VSOP, and XO coming for the Calvados XO. So Calvados XO is a little bit younger. The one I've given you here is an 8-year-old Chateau de Brie. A lovely, lovely nose to it. So if you, this is around 40%, yeah. I believe. You have the sample of the. Sorry, you're not getting a chance to down, are you, Barry? Sorry. God, I'm sorry about that now. How much is, what's the percentage of that? 40. Oh, geez, I was right. Unreal. Thank you very much. You guys to see the bottle. It's a very funky looking bottle, so it is. Very cool, isn't it? Yeah, I was a bit worried with this yoke, but actually it just kind of pops right off. It's very easy. I thought I'd have to get like a lighter at it and kind of melt it and bring the place down. Okay. Brilliant. Well, you know what to get her now anyway, yeah. Well, there'll be no slippers anyway, no. Right. So, with the Calvados there, that is part of our single cask release when it comes with the whiskey there on your first on the left. So we have 3 in the single cask release there, of course. From left to right, we have the Calvados, Madeira, and Burgundy there. So again, this is kind of in the same vein as the double barrel, as in again, it is a single grain, 3.5 years in an ex-bourbon cask with a heavy char, and then 6 to 9 months in a Calvados cask. So the notes you're going to be expecting the most, kind of apples, sweet notes to it, kind of toffeed pears kind of come in there as well. Well, yeah. Again, also, if I'm going like really quickly, I'm talking too fast because I am from Kilkenny, so I do tend to mumble, right? So don't hold that against me. Nobody's perfect. There's people from Kilkenny. But yeah, you can have a little nose there, guys. And I find it quite nice. There's a bit of a depth to it with the Calvados cask, adds an extra kind of level to it. Our brand ambassador in Germany, she does whiskey dinners every couple of weeks, and she'll pair a different whiskey with a different dish. So, for example, I'm looking at doing one in the Old Quarter. Keep an eye out for that. What she does is she leaves Calvados for the very end of the meal, so at dessert, and she always pairs it with like an apple pie or an apple crumble, and it actually works really, really well. So next time you're having an apple pie, you fire away. It works. So apple tart. I just have little sticks on the fry. Well, I'm going to pass these staves out as well in a little while too. Okay. Sorry? Will at the end? Oh, we'll just have a big fight, will we? Right. Now it's a taste. All right. So guys, what are we kind of thinking of the Calvados? Is there any kind of notes in particular you get off it? Is it all just heavy on the apples? Is it toffee pears? Or is it just, the sweetness coming from the grain? I personally get a little bit of sweetness, a bit light, but... Yeah? You felt it kind of elevated, yeah. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Because with Calvados, usually, not many people tend to drink. It's quite rare. No. And more the only real ones you're going to get are, the pricing for them works really weirdly. So you'll get like a 40 € bottle, or you'll get like 150. So, obviously I went with the 150. No, 40. No, so it is quite nice drink. It's very good actually in between meals as well. Too. So it's delicious. I like it now. Actually, that was the first before I started. It was the first bottle of Glendalough I was gifted. Again, the other brand ambassador from Germany, Eva is her name. she gifted it to me. We did a bit of a bottle swap, and I think I had it gone in about 2 weeks. It was delicious. That actually sounds quite bad now I say it back in my head. But okay. So that is the Calvados there. Calvados whiskey. That's been around 8 years. 8 years, yeah. Okay. Now, so if you like, we're gonna stick to our second whiskey of the night, which is going to be the Burgundy. So all of these last first three are all finishing casks, so it's 6 to 9 months on average is what the single grain has spent in the Calvados, Burgundy, and Madeira, respectively. Anyway, so yeah, it's all grain. It's all grain. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No. That's exactly why. Because I'm flying through it. If I'm talking too quickly, let me know. So what I'm going to do, actually, I might collect all those glasses again, if that's all right, because our table is going to get a little bit full, and there's going to be glasses flying everywhere. So while I'm doing that, you can have a little chat away. Thanks again, Barry. Oh, cheers. Thank you. I love these capitas now. I was at a Central Quotation and they had the little red breast ones. Oh yeah, they're gorgeous. Thanks, guys. You don't have to give them back if you don't want to. Oh, it's very nice, isn't it? Quite a rare drink, I find, you know. If anyone wants to hand back a little glass of Calvados, the only reason I'm saying is because I don't want the tables to be too full, because there won't be glasses flying everywhere. No worries.
Very nice.
It's isn't it? Price on that was around 40, 45. Yeah, it's an 8-year-old Calvados. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you're dead right. It's a brandy. Yeah, but it's a type of brandy. Yeah, it's a style of brandy. Yeah. It's in the same kind of house, you know. No, you don't have to give it back. You can keep it if you like. Oh, sorry, that. Hey, Levi. Yes. No worries about your grand. Yes.
Between a single cask and single grain.
Yeah, single cask would like now. I will say one thing: the naming of the single casks can be a little bit divisive. So we're not saying that in fact it is just. It's been like a single cask would determine that it's one cask and that's it. Where that's not the case with this. The case is we've shown the difference a single cask can make to a single grain. So a single cask would usually mean one cask, that's it, limited release, 500 or so bottles, essentially just whiskey in cask. And then single grain. Single grain is going to mean two things actually. Single means it's made in one distillery. It's not taking whiskey from anywhere else. And grain, it's just pure 100% grain whiskey or corn, and it's always distilled through a column still. But yeah, a single cask tends to be a bit divisive sometimes with the wording. I think you have to look into that. Sorry there, Barry. Thank God, you like fair play to you. Fair play to you. Okay, so I'll hand around some of these now. This is the Madeira. You sure?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, man. Thanks, Guy. Okay. So. Thanks, Bob. You what? The what? Oh, the Greyhound secrets. All right, okay. I won't tell any more Greyhound secrets. I swear. I'll try my very best anyway. Oh, sorry. Oh no, they're not. Sorry, no, they're not. No. But the Calvados itself is actually an airport exclusive, so it's only available in. The Calvados is, yeah.
The rest of them they're small numbered sets. I mean, how many is it each? So they're all actually numbered in the box, right?
They're all bottle numbered and they're all So there should be around. Oh, batch. Yeah. So it's. 500. 500, yeah. 500 only, yeah.
And then the recast, another batch goes out at 500, is it?
Yeah, yeah. Another batch will go out, but again, like the single casting is a bit like, as in, would determine like, one cast, that's it, nothing else, like, but we need to be a bit of work on that, I think, to be honest, with the verb. Bit of,
What can be classed as single cast?
as in, the idea was we're just trying to show the difference a single cask can make to a whiskey, once it's been already fully mature anyway. So like, the ex-bourbon is going to add a little bit of toasted sweetness and vanilla, but like what comes in after that then is added in by the Calvados, Madeira, or Burgundy Pinot Noir casks, and the idea is to kind of line it up and show the kind of innovation that we can do. There'll be a lot more coming on the line too when it comes to innovation, but you'll have to keep your eyes peeled for that now.
And are these still available? So the Calvados still available at the airport?
Calvados available at the airport, Madeira is still available, and Burgundy is still available.
I looked online and some of them were showing us sold out. I don't know, maybe just
Yeah.
the batch that they had.
I know Celtic Whiskey Shop have a nice few Burgundy and a nice few Madeira still knocking around.
I've had the Burgundy.
Yeah, do you like it? Really? I don't know. No, it's gorgeous. Like, but Pinot Noir, obviously, that grape is very hard to work with. Like, it's the most delicate of all. So it can sometimes be a little tough with the flavor wise to get it to pull through fully. But I think we did a good job on it anyway. Okay, so what I am going to do as well, actually no, I'll leave it till after because our tables are getting a little bit full here now. So yeah, a little bit much. Free bottle for one for everyone in the audience. More Guinness, lads. Now, so second up here on your tasting mats for tonight is going to be the single cask Madeira. Now, again, this is the same process as before. It is a 3.5-year-old single grain, 6 to 9 months. 3.5-year-old single grain in an ex-bourbon cask, heavy char. 6 to 9 months then in a Madeira cask. And you may see it. I'm going to pass it around if you like there as well. You might see it as well, yeah. So, you might have passed it around here. So you can see it there on the bottom of the label of the Madeira cask. It'll say Cantero aged, Cantiro, and that actually refers to the aging method of Madeira wine. You can see as well, Guy and Barry have very kindly passed out a lovely sample of Madeira wine for tonight. They deal with that same principle of course, as the Calvados. It's kind of nose, have a bit of a taste, see the similarities in there between the Madeira and the whiskey there.
Before you go on, was a question of Calvados available in
All airports.
mainly all airports.
All airports, but yeah, all airports, yeah. No, please give it back. So, Cantero refers, as I said, to the aging method. And Cantero actually refers more specifically to the wooden beams that hold up the casks. So, Madeira wine is all about the elements. You'll get the cask kind of left out in the sun. Madeira wine will kind of sit there and become a kind of a jam-like texture that will soak into the wood and leave a lovely, nice kind of burnt caramel, apples, pears flavor that you would expect into the wood there, which is ready for the next liquid that's going to go into it there. But again, this is the sample I've given you all tonight of Madeira wine. It is Barbeto Madeira, aged, of course, in the classical Cantero aging method. But I find this whiskey, again, it's sort of on par with the Calvados in terms of the bit of kind of burnt caramel, Tabby's apples, kind of pears that come through in there as well. Again, if I'm going too quickly, please tell me I don't want to be flying. The Madeira is sweeter. Yeah, Madeira would be usually had, again, with more kind of, I suppose, again, at the end of a meal again as well, usually more so than Calvados actually. But it is like, again, it's not something that's drunk too regularly. Even sherry isn't drunk too regularly. But then again, there are thousands and thousands of sherry barrels in circulation in every Irish distillery in the country as well. So we'll be using sherry barrel around 3 times, and we'll use a bourbon cask around 3 to 4 times. What I have here for you tonight is a B3 or a third fill bourbon barrel. Now, when I say B3, it means the third time we've used it. Of course, you know, they could have used it twice beforehand. So we call it B1, B2, B3, or SB1 or B2, SB3. Sherry barrel 1, sherry barrel 2, sherry barrel 3. I'm going to pass around that sample of Madeira wine there as well, just so we have a look at it there. All which, yes, they are all triple distilled, yeah. Yeah. Again, that Madeira wine as well that's been passed around. I'm not going to break the bank, again, around 30 odd quid. 3 or 4-year-old Madeira, not too bad, you know. Sorry? It would be a fortified wine, yeah. The Madeira wine, 19%, yeah.
And the Calvados is
Calvados is 40%, yeah. They're both, so you can classify the Calvados nearly as brandy almost. And you can class the Madeira up to a fortified wine. Yeah, jeez. True, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, surprisingly, we have a lot, like, yeah. Steady hands for yourself, yeah. Like a surgeon, like. That's exactly what we're doing, yeah. Color will be natural, yeah. No. It will be natural.
See it from just even from the
Mm.
there's an awful lot darker, so that's why you're seeing it in the whiskey. It's just carried through in the whiskey. Colors.
Yeah.
The color from the
Exactly.
cask.
Pretty much. So around usually between 60 and to 70% of all the kind of taste and color of a whiskey is going to come from maturation. There's a lot of debate about that, obviously, but usually that's where it's all going to come from anyway. All right. Hello. No, they're not. No, they're not joining. No, they're not. No, they're not.
They don't like whiskey.
No, they don't. Let's happen by. Okay. So, as what are we thinking about the lovely Madeira single cask there? Is it a yay? Is it an A? Is it a tepid okay? Yeah? Yeah? Brilliant. Okay. Again, the thing is, like, you know, for a single grain that you have there in front of you, it's also, of course, quite young. When it comes to obviously whiskey, the older it is, the more mellower, of course, it's going to become. Usually with a single grain, they tend to be, sometimes they can tend to, you know, be quite high in alcoholic content as well. But again, I find that we've had it so young, we've kind of looked after it very well. A lot of people sometimes get this kind of weird notion in their heads that when you're maturing a whiskey, you just put it into the bonded warehouse, leave it there, 3.5 years later, fingers crossed, you've got your whiskey. It is simply not the case at all. Rowdy and Sam, Rowdy's our head distiller. Sam is the assistant distiller. He's got the best job in the entire world. But basically, it's all the work with none of the consequences. But basically, they will be checking the casks every single week. And once it gets to the point that they feel they're happy with, then it's ready for vatting and then bottling from there on in. But there is a lot of work that goes into just even the maturation of a cask in there as well. You know, it's not simply just leave it in the bonded warehouse 3.5 years, boom, boom, there we go, we have it. So there's a lot more to it than that, I can tell you. It was nice, I said, like, slide a hand there to the bottle of Madeira. You'd be the first lad I've ever met to steal a bottle of Madeira wine. Normally people steal, like, you know, money. No, really. Bottle of Madeira, huh? Right. It is, yeah. Okay. Now. Oh, yeah? Yeah. I suppose what I was doing before this, if anybody wants to know, it's probably the most, there's never going to be a quiz on it or anything like that. You know, but what I was doing beforehand, I used to work for Jemison for about 3 years. I worked on Bow Street and the brand home. I used to wear the green apron, the purple tie, I looked exceptionally cool, obviously. And the little brogues as well. I was an absolute legend. I wasn't. Oh, and the little people walking around. But so I did my name tag, and I did have, like, when I was working in the shop, I said to the Americans, they asked, "What's your name?" Like, Brandy, come here, I'll tell you. I give you 3 guesses. If you get them right, you get all this here now for free. Safest bet in the world, never a chance. Like Eoin, Ion, In, On, and In was another one. So never close. So after that, then I took a bit of a left field and did tech sales for about 2 years for a company called Learn Upon. If anybody cares, I don't think you will. That's fine. After that, then I did the IBEC program, and I worked as a brand ambassador for a small craft distillery called Skellig 618, a startup operation in Caribbean, just off about 10, 15 kilometers away, of course, from Skellig Michael. And from there, I cut my teeth into the kind of brand ambassador world of things as well, That then, a good colleague of mine who's on the IBEC program with me, who's now the BA for Germany for Glendalough, got onto me and said, "We're hiring for a BA." 3 weeks later, boom, I had the job. So Glendalough moved extremely fast, very, very fast. Even when the guys started, the 5 lads, they realized that, we're not the only ones with this idea, so we have to move quickly. So there's kind of a DNA in Glendalough and Mark Anthony in general, that everybody is work digging the same trench together, but we're all working as equally as hard as one another. So we kind of tend to move very quickly anyway. When decisions are made, they're made that day pretty much. That's how we kind of work. That's kind of how you have to work, I feel, if you work in the drinks trade anyway. You can't tend to kind of stand still, I feel. Because with now 43 distilleries, there's more competition than ever. So yeah, that was a bit of. They are actually not involved. Actually, there's one. Kevin Keenan is still involved. He is the kind of creative director. So he would make it, like, he'd help with all the kind of advertising and promotion and everything. Yeah, very cool guy, very slick. Kind of shoulder length hair, sunglasses all the time, is indoors or not. Very cool. Yeah, but yeah, all the other guys have left. We did have Brian O'Driscoll as one of the shareholders for a while, and that's why we brought out the 13-year-old to celebrate, of course, the great fraud that he is, Brian O'Driscoll. So again, that was. I know, yeah, I know. Sorry, I meant Paul O'Connell. I'm sorry. There we go now. I think he played for Arsenal. So yeah, yeah. I'm going to use that now, to be honest. We're actually going to an Arsenal match next week. Yeah, he was bought out. So he had a very small share. He was actually drinking. I'm actually going to keep talking about Brian O'Driscoll, even though there's going to be. I'm going to be punched now if I keep talking about him. I'm going to do it anyway. No, I will do it. He was in the Dead Rabbit in New York drinking one night, having a couple of pints, and he sees a bottle, this weird bottle with this saint on it, with his arm stretched. He's like, "What is that? Where's that from?" Your man goes, "This is new whiskey from Ireland. Have you ever tried it?" He goes, "No." So he just randomly decided to try it. Had a few more pints, over a few whiskeys, and by the end of the night, he was trying to find Gary McLaughlin or get a number for Brian Fagan to chat to him. And within a couple of weeks later, he was in the office. The lads were like, "Oh, jeez, yeah." Yeah. But the idea is, like, the idea is, like, you never know where your product is being drank. You never know who's drinking it either, as well. So it's just one of those mad things. But that's the last I'll ever say now for Brian Driscoll. I swear. Kevin. So yeah, no, I didn't want to start with that because I wasn't sure if you'd all want to be history lesson or not. So are any of you kind of familiar with who the man is on the bottle there? No? So that'll be St. Kevin of Glendalough. So St. Kevin, he was born in the 6th century. He was son of one of the high kings of, I'm going to say it, Leinster, sorry. So, well, sure, it wasn't his fault he was born. I'm so sorry. I go the right way for a step. So Greater Munster area. I like that one, to be honest. It's way better. But anyway, he's watching the Munster match. Now, so St. Kevin, born in the 6th century in a place called Kilmanagh, which is near Tala, which is where I am living, which of course you can tell by my big, dirty, thick Tala accent. Born in the mid-6th century. And of course, he was born into a life of wealth, nobility. Didn't really have to work a day in his life if he didn't want to. He's kind of like a prehistoric, Paris Hilton in a way. But anyway, what Kevin decided, though, he wanted more a life, more substance, with a bit of depth to it. So he wants to become a monk. More specifically, he favored an ascetic life. Now, an ascetic monk basically are the same monks that were on the Skellig rocks in the 6th century as well, creating their illuminated manuscripts. So basically, the idea behind an ascetic monk is that you live this very, very harsh life of solitude, quiet, and devotion to God. And the harder and, I suppose, tougher you live your life, the closer you'll be to God and the more rewarded you'll be when you go up to, the heaven to meet the big lad. So, again, I don't know if that works or not. I haven't met him yet. So, basically, what Kevin did was he had an awful habit of running away. When he was ordained, he ran into the Wicklow Mountains and disappeared. He walked barefoot. He lived off the nettles and the botanicals that grew wildly in the Wicklow Mountains. And if anyone ever has a kind of a bit of a history buff like myself, or likes history in general, like stories, there are a lot of stories of St. Kevin of Glendalough in nature. And there's a few famous ones. One in particular is one day Kevin lost his Bible, and a week later, an otter swam up to the lake in Glendalough and just dropped the Bible at his feet, out of its mouth. You can believe that if you want. I'm not telling you don't have to. No, I would say it's in the poutine probably, yeah. But the thing is, with Kevin as well, he settled on the upper lake in Glendalough, in this little cave, which to say, of course, is called St. Kevin's bed, which is kind of like his little apartment, I suppose. His bed was a stone, and his pillow was also a stone. He didn't really believe in any comforts whatsoever. Stone every night. He was doing well, so he knew what he was doing. But by the time St. Kevin actually passed away, he had amassed over 2,000 or 3,000 followers who all came to him he had kind of these weird kind of healing powers as well, such as the kind of story of the deer stone, for one example as well. But again, what happened really was the most famous account of St. Kevin in nature is the one blazoned on every single bottle of Glendalough. And that is a story that one day St. Kevin was praying. He waded out into the water about, waist height, as you do when you pray. I always do that in the bath. So anyway, he had his arms outstretched, his eyes closed, and a blackbird landed in his hand. Made a nest, laid an egg, and he waited 13 days and 13 nights, pledging to fly away. That's the legends of St. Kevin, but he actually favored animals more so than people. He didn't like people all too much. He liked to be left alone. So he spent the last few years of his life just praying, solitude, and also just, lying back on that stone bed, just chilling, watching, making whiskey, and watching the rugby. That's exactly where it comes from. Yeah. So actually, another thing about Glendalough is that not many people know this. We're the only distillery in Ireland that can actually boast that we have a full-time forager, and that full-time forager, her name is Geraldine Kavanagh. And every single day from the months of March to September, Geraldine ventures up into the Wicklow Mountains and gathers botanicals or forages for them and brings them back to the distillery that day. So they're all as fresh as you possibly can get. Well, yeah, that's another thing that I'm not sure any other distillery can boast. I know that we can anyway, with our gin. Why do they use St. Kevin? We're trying to find us. You behave now. No, but there is some. So St. Kevin was very much a man of nature, a man of sustainability, a man of kind of favouring the path less travelled by. So when the 5 lads all got together, as you can see, I'm saying 5 lads, not 5 guys. When the 5 lads all got together, they had these lovely, safe jobs. They didn't have to do anything different. They could have stayed and got a nice, lovely pension out of it, and they could have been grand. But they chose to do something with a little bit of difference, a little bit of substance to it, and actually follow more so their passion, which was, of course, at the time, craft distilling. And again, they had very little experience in it, very little knowledge of it, but they weren't kind of shying away from it. They kind of grasped it with both hands. St. Kevin, he was born into a life of kind of nobility, kind of wealth, didn't have to work really too hard if he didn't want to. He just stayed going the way he was and just lived out his life in, happiness. But he chose to do something with a bit more substance, a bit more kind of service to somebody else that wasn't himself. And kind of, I suppose, stand out from the crowd and kind of take the road, of course, less traveled by. And you can see at the bottom of every bottle of Glendalough, it's going to say stand apart. So there is some sort of a similarity between Kevin and the Five Lads in terms of they did not go the way that was expected of them, or they didn't take on the same thing that everyone else was doing. Because at the time, if you're all you are is a bunch of 5 lads getting together with a bit of cash in your back pocket, and you're taking on 2 of the biggest distilleries in the entire world, that's daunting. And to be able to do that is very impressive. That's what I was saying, Kevin. That's a little bit about him and why we have him there. Thank you. I rehearsed that in the bathroom mirror this morning. Very welcome. I had 1 sock on and I was doing really well. Now, yeah. We've all been in poaching, yeah, but I believe, I'm not too sure which came first. Was it Mad March Hare poaching? I know 2 Trees also have a poaching, but I wasn't sure how long that's been around now. Cooley, yeah. Ecklenville, but they're actually found a little bit later. I'm not too sure. Will be the first? That's a good question.
Are these your own still liquids in these?
In the single casks? Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would be our own. Will be our own single grain. Yeah, will be our own single grain. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so we've got. Well, we haven't even taken it to the Burgundy yet, have we? So sorry, I got too caught up talking. So we'll have a little sip of water if you'd like, guys. We're going to take into the 3rd whiskey of the night, and then we'll have a little bit of a break if you like. 5 to 10 minutes. Kind of gather ourselves, maybe a gentle pint, toilet break if you like, no problem at all. So no one just misses anything. So what we have here lastly is the Burgundy single cask, or the Pinot Noir. So on the bottle itself, I think I have a sample over here. Sorry about it. I'm going to pass around a bottle of Burgundy there, and you'll see there that it says Grand Cru, which means great growth. So. Oh, sorry, man. Thanks very much. Oh, geez, he didn't steal it in the end. Unbelievable. Fair play. It's a bit later now, to be honest, so it is. No, that's how it is. This is, yeah, probably. So, with this, again, a 3.5-year-old single grain. First 3.5 years, of course, in an ex-bourbon cask, heavy char. B3, to the best of my knowledge. 6 to 9 months in a Burgundy or Pinot Noir cask. If anybody knows anything about wine, they will know that Pinot Noir is one of the most delicate grapes to actually work with. Very, very tough. You can see, of course, I didn't use, of course, a pairing for Burgundy wine with the whiskey, of course, because it wouldn't, logically, it wouldn't really make sense. It'd kind of blow the wine out of it. You wouldn't really get anything. Again, because Burgundy, of course, is quite delicate, and of course, pairing a wine with the whiskey isn't really the done thing. Because again, it's hard to just Burgundy wine. It's easy with a fortified wine because it's a little bit stronger, of course. So, the Burgundy. Have you all had a chance to kind of nose that, have a bit of a smell of it? What do we think? Good. It's light. Got to be the grain. So you get, again, same thing as before, the kind of DNA, the kind of toasted oak, the sweetness from the grain, the oak from, of course, the bourbon cask coming through, the vanilla, the vanillin, the tannins there coming through from the cask. The kind of a nice base, and then you're finishing off the kind of more earthier notes that come through in the Burgundy, I find, which is quite surprising, given the fact that it is Pinot Noir. Yeah, such a Pinot Noir. So, yeah, they're all really easy drinkable, yeah.
And I mean, they're not over expensive. expect the single cask
Hmm.
to be a really expensive whiskey.
Yeah.
Generally, it's
Hugely.
cask strength.
Yeah.
This is not what these are. I mean, what's the price range of most of these? You know, or
Most of the single casks will come in between 50 to 60 odd euro. Yeah.
I know I picked up the Burgundy in Hines at one stage, like 45 euros.
45, yeah.
Actually included that we have a group and we stick in a bottle each,
Mm.
send it around blind,
Yeah.
taste. And I said that the just picked it up off the shelves just to try it.
All right.
And it was one of the standard whiskies of the 12.
Jeez.
She was a whiskey under 50 euros.
Yeah.
And this is the one I picked. Really good. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Really good blind.
Jeez, no, it is. It's a great whiskey. It's a lovely whiskey. It does a lot to kind of take you back. So what you can see is like, you know, because these whiskies are all so young, like I think we've done a lot short space of time with the maturation of all these whiskies there too, you know. So if anybody is wondering what on the bottom when it said Grand Cru meaning great growth, it refers more so to the appellation or where the Pinot Noir grape is grown. There are only 3 appellations in Burgundy that are allowed to carry the title of Grand Cru or Great Growth. Now, the idea behind the single cask series here is that we're looking for the best casks, producing the best flavor to give you the best whiskey, and also the best bang for your buck. Like I said there, Andrew, 45 euro for a lovely bottle of whiskey, you know? So that's the idea behind that. Kind of like this unrelenting kind of looking for, you know, passion for kind of flavor. So that's what we're after, you know? Pot stills as well. Yeah. And we have a gin still there as well. The gin still, her name is Kathleen. I don't know why. Nobody's wife in the company is called Kathleen. I don't know why. But it is, yeah. It's like, what's going on here? Like, you know? Just like John Teeling, and he's named all the stills after his daughters. Yeah. I think it's more kind of cute than anything. Now, I did see the Eddie Stobart, you know, the logistics, and all the trucks were named after his daughters. So I don't know if that's flattering or not. Yeah. Well, daughters. Okay. So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to have 5 to 10 minutes, little break. If you want to go to the bathroom, have get another pint or get a bit of bottle of water into you. We're going to take a few minutes. Is that all right, yeah? Yeah? Perfect. No worries. Nice. I do. How you getting on? Yeah? Yeah? Do you have any more bottles of water, actually? Are they all gone? No problem. I'll just get a bottle of ginger ale.
Dude, I have an open.
Oh, you sure? Have you had water yourself? No worries, right? Yeah. Yeah. No. That's nice, isn't it? Very drinkable. Very easy to drink now. I like it. I'd be a big fan of it now myself. But like, I like the Burgundy the most, I think. Burgundy, whenever I do a training and they've just got it in, like, it seems to do extremely well. When I put it, even when put up against the pot still and the Mizuno, like, oh, mad for it. You know, it's lovely. Yeah, definitely, bud. Definitely getting the O'Briens or getting Bite Off Celtic. They'd have it for sure. You know? Oh, Judy, Is the pace all right, Andrew? It's okay, is it?
Perfect.
No worries, that.
Great, yeah.
Thanks very much, bud. Yeah, can you hear me? You can hear me heartbeat. Okay. Right. So. Yeah, no worries. Right. So, lads, lassies, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass. Do you just wish to? Fair play, Andrew. Now, what I'm going to do is pass around some samples of a stave that I. Yeah, do you want? On God. Now, so the other day, myself and Rowdy, well, mostly Rowdy, broke down a cask. So this is a fresh sample, as fresh as you can get, broken down literally yesterday, of a B3 or a bourbon barrel used for one of our single cask releases. He couldn't tell me the exact one, but it was a single grain that was in it beforehand, which narrows it down to 4 whiskies. So there's your stave, guys. I'm just because what I'm trying to do here is just kind of show you the effect that the maturation is going to have on both the whiskey and on your hands, like. So, right. It's actually, so you don't have to pass it around. I'm passing out a few more samples here. So there you are, lads. Have a little gooch of that stave there. That's a level 4 heavy char. Yes, so there you are, guys. We'll have a cooperage that will do it for us. We'll have a bodega, usually. Juan Pino is is the name of the bodega that we use. And also we bring them to a sawmill as well in Galicia, or Spain, and make it to our specs. Sure about a cloth. Right. So guys, you're grand, right? You're a true sound, lad. So what you have there in front of you is a stave or a section or a piece of a bourbon cask. It was a 3rd fill or a B3. Oh, sorry. So you can try. God knows I have anyway. Now, with that bourbon cask there, you can actually feel it along the outside. It's actually damp. And that is honestly from whiskey. So if you see here as well on whiskey jerk, you could try. You could really give it a go. It's whenever you break out something like that, it's a bit like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory with the snozzberries, smell like snozzberries. You start licking as long as you're not licking the walls, you're fine. All right, don't worry. Then you've had too much. Yeah, true. So if you see here, bless you. If you see in there, there's a kind of brownish line running the entire way through. That is called the tide line, called the soak line, or as I like to refer to it, as it is actually referred to as the devil's cut. So the angel share, of course, is 2% of all the whiskey that's lost every year to evaporation. They'll evaporate out of the casks, and the devil's cut is what stays in there. There are actually some whiskies called the devil's cut. I forget the brand that makes them, but they will actually squeeze the staves together almost in a kind of a hydraulic press. That's it. Thank you. I couldn't remember. And oddly enough, that cask you have in your hands there, lad, that is a Jack Daniel's cask as well. So there's a heavy note of bourbon off that. Even the fact that it is a 3rd fill bourbon cask. And when I say 3rd fill, I mean it's the 3rd time that we have used it. So B1, B2, B3, 3rd time we have it. Now again, sorry? Yeah, it will, yeah. The longer it's there, the further it moves out. Yeah. But you're exactly right, yeah. But again, if you see there as well, there are levels of char you can get for a cask. Basically, you're holding the cask over an open flame, obviously. And the one we have given it here is a level 4 alligator char. because if you see it, it looks like an alligator scales. That's simply the only reason why it's called that. Genius. So that is your level 4 alligator char. Now, of course, it's going to release more tannins from the wood. So, for example, like vanillin is going to be coming through from the American oak, or Quercus alba, to give it its Latin term, I believe. No, the barrels are going to be charred in either the bodega, or they're going to be charred in the sawmill in Galicia. So yeah, no, we don't char them ourselves. We don't have the facilities for them, I'm afraid. But yeah. So, God, you ask away. Yeah, there is no glue, there's no nails, there's nothing holding that cast together except for 6 hoops. That's it, nothing else. It's pure and utter craftsmanship. Like, yeah, it's magic. When I used to work in Jemison, we used to have Ger Buckley in, and he used to come in on Paddy's Day, and we'd roll out the green carpet for him. Honestly, we did. And he'd break apart a bourbon cask and put it back together in 3 minutes without breaking a sweat, and he'd look at you the entire time and he'd be talking to you. Not a bother to him. And it still wouldn't leak. Barely. Well, barely. Someone I think has something. Yeah, here. This here is the bung of the whiskey, obviously, and there is going to be some leakage there because all the pressure is coming down on it. You can't. There's none of it there because this cask was perfectly made, but you will get some sort of. It will run, and their actual technical term for it is actually bunghole seepage. Honestly, no, honestly, I'm not joking. Yeah. These casks are standing up, yeah. They'll be standing up, yeah.
That's the old way to
You can most distilleries and maturation warehouses I've been to are going to be stacking their barrels standing up. Yeah.
On the side because it makes more economical sense. They can fit more than you know.
Yeah, true. Again, it depends more on the head of maturation, like what he prefers. It doesn't have like too huge of effect, of course, except for space and saving space. That's all it is really. But most people prefer to have it on. Most of maturation warehouses prefer to have it standing up because they can check casks easier. Usually. Yeah. And they can also take it off the rack, bring it down, check it, bring it back up again. Don't have to prop it up again, like, you know. But that's just some distilleries. Some distilleries are different from others. Depends on what they want. Tullamore Dew, they're a really cool thing. They will. They don't have a specific warehouse for like premium spirits. It's all they'll have like a 30-year-old whiskey beside a 10-year-old, a 2-year-old, because was it Buffalo Trace burned down, or they had a huge fire, like, and they lost all of their like aged whiskies. Yeah. Spread the risk. Yeah. So if one fails, they have plenty of backups, you know. So the next whiskey that we're going to take into is going to be the pot still. Is that correct? Yes, it is pot still. That's why I had pictures on the mats. I'm more of a visual learner myself. Yeah. What? Yeah. Cheers. So now, with the pot still here, this is a whiskey that is quintessentially Glendalough. I say that simply because the casks are ours, the whiskey is ours, everything is ours. So from start to finish. So what you have here there in front of you, a pot still whiskey. If anybody would like to know the mix, malted, unmalted, it's 2 to 1, malted, unmalted. 66% malted, 33% unmalted, which is quite surprising, given the fact that malted, of course, is quite expensive. Now, aged for 4 years in an ex-bourbon cask, again with a heavy char like you've seen there tonight, and finished for the final year in an Irish oak cask, or a virgin Irish oak cask. Now, if anybody knows anything about Irish oak, they will know that it is actually very, very tough to get, hard to acquire, and that goes back to the time of Queen Victoria, when she actually commissioned all of the Irish oak in Ireland to be cut down to be made for building ships. always better when you can blame the English for something, isn't it? You know? So, you know. Yeah, serious case of it, yeah, jeez. Too much of it. So Irish oak is quite different to all the other types of wood that we've been using tonight, which is, of course, the bourbon cask, the sherry casks, the Burgundy, the Madeira, Calvados. The idea I'm trying to get through here is that it's all about maturation. It's probably the most important part, in my eyes, of the whiskey making process, of course. As again, most of the flavor is going to be coming through from this. Distillation is extremely important too, but so is maturation. There's no point having a, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. The Irish oak cask, we sell them to other companies. I actually don't know the answer to that question. But what I can do is I can actually find, I wouldn't think so. What I can do is actually, we are one of, well, there's Middleton Dargaelic, and there was us, and there's also Jemison in their pot still. They're the three ones they're the only three ones I know that are using virgin Irish oak. Now, they exchange barrels, yeah. We actually exchanged. So what we did, we actually exchanged people this time for us. So I'll explain what I mean by that. We didn't put people in barrels, by the way, all right? I said that really backwards, sorry. Get in there now, you. Don't say words. Now, so what I mean is that, okay. Seep it away. This is cool. I can't. I'm streaming. Jesus. I really hope my boss isn't looking at me doing this now. What were we talking about last night in Jerry Flannery's? So anyway, with this whiskey, again, was very different about it. I'll get to what I was saying in a second. It's quite different because Irish oak and the liquid inside it, it's going to mature at a much faster rate. Reason being, the cell walls in Irish oak are much thinner, so allowing for more kind of liquid to pass through it at a faster rate. So again, you might see there's a little bit of a darker color. The nose on it, even on the pot still, is quite deeper. It's darker. It's a little more intense. I call this my kind of roundabout whiskey, which basically means that you're starting off at two very different points. You got a bit of the lovely spice coming from the unmalted barley, and you're getting the lovely notes of the kind of earthy kind of tannins coming through from the virgin Irish oak. They meet in the middle with a bit of creaminess on the finish, which I really, really like. This is probably my favorite of all the whiskeys that we have here. Not to say that the others aren't great. They are, obviously. Yeah. Good. So, yeah, no, so you've moved off to Burgundy, have you, as your favorite?
Yeah, no, when I tried these, they were made 5 of them together.
In the same order, was it?
Yeah.
Do you think the order?
Sample bottles.
Oh, right. One for you, one for me, one for you. There's no samples, but I had a great time. So, it's a bit of eating and drinking to it, isn't there? Yeah, it's actually delicious. No, it's a lovely whiskey now. It's now the thing is, right? Of course, make no mistake. Like, it is a very young pot still. It is quite young. It's 5 years old. You know, obviously, the first thing that comes to everyone's heads when they think of pot still, bang, red breast 12. And that straight away. Of course, it's natural required to do that. But what I find is, like I was saying beforehand, you're not just leaving the whiskey in the bottom warehouse, sitting there in the cask, 5 years, bang, lovely, we have a whiskey. Rowdy and Sam constantly checking this whiskey every single week, making sure it's up to code, it's maturing at the right rate. Now, when it comes to the transfer of people I was alluding to earlier, we cut down 14 trees in Glendalough for these casks. So we're actually able to say that it's from our neck of the woods to yours, which is actually on the neck tag of every bottle of Glendalough pot still. But basically, we used a guy, his name was Paddy Purser. He worked on the project for Middleton Dargaelic as well. So we felt of course, we were in very good hands with him. So Paddy Purser basically went into Glendalough with Geraldine. He went in there with Rowdy, and Kevin Keenan, and Brian Fagan. And it was very simple. All he did was say, you can have that, you can have that, you can have that, you can have that, and that's it. No more. That's it. 14 trees, no more, no less, nothing else. Because the thing is, we planted 7 trees for every one we felled. You're usually going to get around 3 to 4-ish casks from each Irish oak tree, except one monster we got 5 casks from. They're all bottle numbered, they're all cask numbered, they're all batch numbered as well. So very good. This is 3-2. You're having 3-2, which kind of oh, the trees on average would be about 120 years. It takes 120 years for an Irish oak tree to fully mature. Because we're using a virgin Irish oak, we're using it once. Now we might reintroduce them to something else, or as Guy was saying, we might sell it on again. No longer virgin oak. Yeah, you can't say it anymore then. Yeah, but yeah. Fancy boxes. I do.
There's no one else that has fancy wooden boxes.
Oh, I do love a fancy wooden box. All right, I tell you. All right. No, it's all cardboard now, I'm afraid. Yeah. Oh, repurpose them so we will. The 7, sorry. Sorry, what was the question? Yeah. Yeah.
Is that your own plantation?
That's our own. That is within Glendalough. Yeah, we do it ourselves. There's actually a couple of videos circulating online of Rowdy himself planting the trees. I don't know if he was happy about being dragged out in the middle of the day, but sure, you know, he was doing his bit anyway. Grow our own grain. We will be using grain from local farmers around Glendalough. Of course, we're going to be using the likes of best man knowledge, I think it's Born Malt, Malting House of Ireland, that kind of thing. Same guys with Blackwater are going to be using, same guys with Dingle are going to be using as well. Well, I can give you a more detailed answer. I can ask Rowdy myself and get back to him because you've asked me 2 questions now, but I didn't answer properly to you, and I need to get back to you on that as well. Sustainable distillery. Simple fact that we kind of operate more of a closed loop system. Also the fact so we circulate as much as we can, but when it comes to our gin, we're working with the seasons. We're not working against them. We have very little emissions from our distillery. Again, it's all small batch, small craft. But the main thing is that we tend to work a lot with what's sustainably grown from within Glendalough. So Geraldine will sustainably forage in the area of Wicklow. She won't over forage or damage anything. So even, for example, with our pot still, you know, we planted 7 saplings for every Glendalough, for every oak tree we felled. You know, so that is always in the back of our minds when we're in operation. You know. Aniseed from the pot still. Okay, I actually get a lot of like kind of dark chocolate off the pot still. Different noses, like always going to get different things. Aniseed is a very interesting one. That's a very interesting note, Glenn. Fair play. Thank you, Glenn. Okay. Yeah, please ask away, lads. You've got yeah, it's a hat trick. You can do my job now. What's my favorite? What's my favorite? Oh, water, spring water. Yeah. It's locally. It's a local water source. Yeah, in Wicklow. Yeah.
Kevin under the waterfall.
Kevin, yeah, just collecting all that. There you go, now, Rowdy. That's for you. That's for you there, bud. You fire away. Plenty of it. So that is the pot still. I find it quite like, of course, pot still is going to be like the quintessential style of Irish whiskey. Price point around 60 odd euro a bottle. It's pretty good. It comes in a nice, lovely tube as well. Yeah. It's single pot still, yeah. Single pot still, yeah. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the final whiskey there of the night. That is going to be the pièce de résistance, man of the night, man of the hour, single malt, 7-year-old Mizunara. One of the most exciting releases that Glendalough had in the last while. We released this early last year. It was one of the biggest releases we ever had. Also, just to note, Glendalough were the first ever distillery to use Mizunara oak. Don't know knows what that is. Mizunara oak comes from Hokkaido. We're getting it coming from Hokkaido in Japan. It's Japanese oak. It literally means water oak. So porous, it's full of holes. Whiskey leaks out of it constantly. So this is one of the most peculiar whiskies that we've ever released. I've never really met a whiskey with this kind of a nose on it. So have a little nose there. Tell me what you think of it there. It's very different. It's extremely different. It blows a few things out of the water. It's strong, aggressive, intense. Yeah, exactly. It's intense. Focused. All right. Yes, orange. Biggest one I get there. Orange is massive. All right. So, just as you have a little nose and a little taste there of that 7-year-old single malt. So quickly, what's under the hood? What's in there? The 6-year-old single malt, of course, 100% malted barley. Finished for a year in a Mizunara oak cask. How much you've left out of that year? Oh, you've around 8 to 10% of it gone. And it's both through evaporation, through leaking to the cask. Honestly, it's tough. It is probably one of the toughest woods to work with. So what I'm going to do, it's more porous than anything else. It's brittle, actually. Yeah, it's very brittle. It can break apart very easily. So if it fell there, 1,000 pieces gone. 5,000 euro. So a little bit about kind of Mizunara oak in general. Jeez, we're all dropping things tonight. What's going on here now? Dropping bottles. So with the Mizunara oak, just a few things about it there. Yeah, as have I. So when it comes to Mizunara oak, a few things about it. It is one of the rarest woods, one of the toughest woods to get. It only goes on sale one day every year, and snap, it was gone. You're not going to get it after for another year after that. There's only one cooperage in the entire world who can actually supply these casks. They are called Ariake Sangyo. Arike Sangyo. You're 5,000 euro is what one cask will cost you. For comparison sake, a normal bourbon cask seasoned is going to cost between 80 to maybe 150 euro. It takes an American oak tree about 80 years to fully mature. It takes a Mizunara oak tree around 250 years to fully mature. So think about what was going on 250 years ago as you're sipping that whiskey in Japan. I don't know if anyone here is au fait. 249. Sorry? It's hard to work with, yeah. But,
Because it's so dense, because it's.
well,
You're saying because it's so porous, is it? Yeah. All right.
So
okay.
I'll explain actually, yeah, because that was actually the next point. So with Mizunara oak, what happens is it doesn't grow. The oak tree itself doesn't actually grow straight up. It's prone to growing twisted. It grows warped, so you can't quarter sort like you would a normal barrel. So I don't know if anyone has ever seen what happens when you're cutting down a tree. Just cut it down from the top. Sorry, the top, the bottom. Sorry, I'm drunk. And you'll basically just cut your tree, of course, into quarters, make your staves from there. You can't do that, of course, with the Mizunara oak tree. Now, once you cut it into staves, you have to leave it for 3 years to fully dry because it is so porous and it's damp by the time you get it. After 3 years, once it's fully dried, it's very brittle. It's very tough to work with again. Nearly can break apart in your hand. When you put it together, you make it into a cask, and constantly treating it over and over again. We actually wrap it in cling film in the distillery. It's a 500-liter puncheon. It's what it's called, Puntheon. And that's the size, the style, and size of the cask. Huge. But Rowdy showed me a picture of it. They're actually wrapped in cling film because they leak so much. Yeah. Oh yeah, when they're filled, like when they're just sitting there, just not exactly. No, not exactly. No, it's not cheating at all. Actually, it's it's keeping our money in there, like Sense. So if you're spending €5,000 per cask, you're going to want to keep the whiskey in it. Also, for comparison's sake, you'll get around 7 to 9 to 10 casks per American oak. You'll get one cask, if you're lucky, from one Mizunara tree. Now, the thing is, right, all I've done for the last 5 minutes is kind of show all the reasons why in the name of God you'd actually never work with this wood. And there's loads of reasons why you wouldn't. But the reasons why you wouldn't are actually the reasons why you should. And it's very simple. More of the whiskey is going to get into more of the cask, so you're ending up with more of the flavor. The great thing with this whiskey is it starts and ends in two extremely different points. So you're going to start off with a little bit of biscuity sweetness, rich tea biscuit or a digestive almost. You're going to dip down into some like dark, deep chocolate orange, like you were saying there earlier, Andrew. You're going to finish off with a bit of coconut on the tail end. Some get that, some don't. I mainly get the coconut. There's some actually liken it to a scotch in the fact that they find the nose to be intense, quite smoky, really overpowering. The reason for that, of course, is in some casks, they will have a certain fungus grow on them. But don't worry, you can drink fine. Like, don't worry, we haven't made it sure. Come on. Well, you're there, you're fine. An alcoholic fungus. It grows in ethanol-rich environments. But that tends to give it that kind of scotchy, smoky, nearly peated smell. This is by far one of the most interesting whiskies we have ever released. Not, of course, taking into account the 17-year-old, 25-year-old we released as well. But again, what happened here is that the idea with that is there's only one independent cooperage in the world that will make Mizunara oak casks. The rest are going to be owned by the big conglomerates. Like, for example, your Beam Suntory. Like, they're going to own most of the Mizunara cooperages in Japan. The reason we have such a good relationship with them is from one of our founders, Kevin Keenan, who, I swear to God, literally just walked into the cooperage one day. I'm not joking. No appointment, no nothing. Just walked in to Araki Sango cooperage in the mountains of Hokkaido in Japan. And he said, "You lads make the best casks. And we've just made the world's best single malt. How about we join forces and work together?" And they all just said, who is this guy? Or he just came out of the bushes, literally. So he brought them all for dinner, a couple of drinks, a couple more drinks, and I realized this lad, Kevin Keenan, is actually pretty cool. So West, to my knowledge, twice, usually. Yeah. Well, we're using the bar. Yeah. Things we buy is completely unseasoned. So when we have it, it's not being there in the form. Really big for if we want flavors from the missing out of. And nothing else. No results, yes. Oh, that's a very good question. I should know the answer to that. 500 liter barrel. 500 liter barrel. It's a big punch. It's the largest one we use. Rowdy will usually use concepts. You bring it take for preparation around that much. Sorry, I don't sound exact figure, sorry. It won't become more dense and more compact. It'll just keep on leaking. More duct tape. To the 13-year-old, for example, that was actually done for 2 years maturation in the Mizunara cask. We are initially going to release it for 12, and then Brian O'Driscoll, or who must not be named, came in and we said, well, we'll do another year for Brian, you know. So yeah, we did 2 years, I think is the longest we've done in the Mizunara. I know that the 17-year-old is, I think, 16 years in bourbon and then 1 year in Mizunara, I believe. So that's my knowledge, yeah. So 2 years is the longest we've ever done anyway. Okay, so guys, that more or less is going to conclude the night. Because you've drank all of my whiskies. Fair play to you. Because yeah, the Mizunara is kind of the end of the night. We finished on a high.
I was trying the Mizunara the other night.
Yeah.
I kept getting this kind of flashback. Didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And realized anyway it was like I was getting these chocolate, what is hard shelled orange with chocolate inside them.
Yeah.
Like Oakfield, you get them in the bag, like a hard shell.
Oh yeah.
Chocolates.
Yeah.
I was going to get them. I went to Super Value today to get them.
Ah.
I ended up totally forgetting. I was going to hand them out to be a pairing with them.
Ah,
But I
right.
think they're perfect little match
Yeah.
to these, you know. And there's something I just kept getting this link back to being a young child and tasting these these hard orange chocolates. You know,
Oh yeah.
the hard shell sweets.
Yeah.
The chocolate inside them.
Yeah.
I think
They remind you of that.
you know the ones, yeah? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chocolate filling, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the perfect pairing for these.
Ash. Next time, Andrew. Next time back in Limerick, we'll do something
You
again.
reminded me of it. Yeah?
Oh, right. So that's amazing, isn't it? Kind of brings you back, like, you know. Yeah. Unreal.
All right, so you're done, right?
Pretty much,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I want to thank Eoin for his
No worries. Thank you for having me.
presentation to us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Something you wouldn't have known, but this is probably Eoin's one of his first tastings.
I was terrible, wasn't I? Yeah, I was shocking.
Fantastic job. So
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
really
you very
enjoyed it. Everyone enjoyed it. So hope you had a great.
much. No worries. No worries.
Hope you all enjoyed the evening.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, any questions? Eoin is going to hang about for a few questions.
Yeah,
and,
of course. No problem.
Get you a few more forward if you need.
Yeah, definitely. Jesus. You just asked for free whiskey, like the most polite way I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, you can, yeah. No, please don't. I don't want to get fired just yet. I get charged first before I head fired. out of a cannon into the sun. Well, yeah, that's it, lads. Yeah. All right. I'll go away. Lovely. It is, isn't it? It goes very well, but actually with a pint of Guinness, oddly enough. Yeah. With a pint of, yes, that's very true. But now, if you start putting Redbreast PX together, and I was like, no way.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. One of the reps for Coca-Cola told me one day he did put the 17-year-old with Pepsi for Glendalough. I nearly punched him. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Burgundy, the wine one.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't miss any shot.
Where you would get Burgundy from?
No, any of the local shops.
Gosh, I know the fine wines around the corner have some lovely Burgundies. You wouldn't be looking for anything. The thing is, I'd love to know more about this, but for some reason, we only know that it's Burgundy Pinot Noir cask. We're not given the bodega or the appellation, or we're not given the house that makes it, which